whether approved by Congress or not. That's something Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, and I want to talk about it. So welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. I'm going to break down this post. I don't like reading what Donald Trump says. I don't like posting anything with his face. I don't like it, but this is one of those posts that need to be taken apart. So Donald Trump posted, Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID or citizenship. I personally find it somewhat cumbersome to get an additional ID for voting when I have several documents to prove citizenship. I have my citizenship certificate, I have my passport, and state congressional guidance on what qualifies as a valid voter ID and incorporating citizenship proof into those IDs, like with passports, would help a lot more than encumbering citizens to get a separate ID just for voting and keep it updated on a constant basis. But neither I nor any other citizen is opposed to citizenship verification. We are opposed to the confusion that's being created right now. We are opposed to POTUS interfering in elections against what the Constitution says about elections. Voter suppression efforts by Donald Trump's regime has already started. I just learned that the U.S. State Department has ordered certain public libraries, nonprofit libraries, and not the ones that are government run, but the ones that are nonprofit libraries nationwide, to cease processing passport applications, disrupting a long-standing service that librarians say their communities have come to rely on and that has run smoothly for years. American Library Association estimates that 1,400 mostly nonprofit public libraries nationwide could potentially be affected. Now remember, the passports are valid IDs under the SAVE Act law that the GOP is trying to pass. And while the GOP is trying to pass that law that says IDs are valid, you have Donald Trump's State Department shutting down and ordering the stopping of libraries, venues where you can get passports done, thereby hindering or getting in the way of a substantial amount of people, because if it's 1,400 locations, libraries, that's a lot of communities that go to rely on that library to get their passports renewed, to apply for passports, and get information about what they need to get their passports. And that is insidious because on one hand, they want evidently election security and citizenship. On the other hand, they are making it harder for communities across the United States, and this is just beginning, with the State Department telling nonprofit libraries to stop processing passports. Then he says, the reason is very simple. They want to continue to cheat in elections. There's been no evidence of this false narrative. Republicans have used this trope for decades as they have gerrymandered, threw out people from voter rolls in red states, and now we see what they're doing with the State Department to disenfranchise even more people from getting voter IDs, the passport, in order to be able to vote. We are in February right now. We have less than a year for you to get your voter IDs. State Department should be facilitating that and opening more facilities to process passports, not restricting over 1,000, nearly 1,500 locations to stop processing passports. Then Donald says, this is not what our founders desired. Well, our founding fathers had among them 19 founders not born in the United States, and they understood that they were an immigrant nation. Successive generations have built upon that. The Statue of Liberty stands as a monument to the United States being an immigrant nation. Then he says, I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vested on this subject, and will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. Donald Trump searching the depths of legal arguments is as likely as pigs flying. And near future for him could be anything between 2 weeks and never. And here is the critical part that he says. There will be voter ID for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. Let me read that again. There will be voter ID for the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. That is one of the most dangerous and dictatorial statements that Donald Trump has made. The president has no power over elections. The president cannot bypass Congress on anything, let alone election matters, or police states in violation of the 10th Amendment. Even during elections, executive orders will not qualify as something that will allow Donald Trump to do that, to be able to have voter ID during the midterms. And if he really is genuinely going after voter ID instead of disenfranchisement of voters, then he needs to open up more processing centers for passports than instead of having his State Department quietly close down 1,400 of them, and this is just the beginning. So then he says, also the people of our country are insisting on citizenship and no mail-in ballots with exceptions for military, disability, illness, or travel. People of the country are not talking about election procedures, and many people vote by mail who don't fall into the categories Trump mentioned. Stopping mail-in ballots for them is an undue burden, the ones who don't fall into those categories, on those citizens, and an encumbrance on our right to vote. And Donald is the one who wants to interfere in our elections against what Congress requires. States and Congress set up election laws and procedures, and states retain policing power over election locations. Executive branch has absolutely no power or authority to engage in election matters, including policing voting locations and imposing voter ID requirements that Congress has not approved and passed into law. And even if and when it is passed by Congress and signed into law by POTUS, POTUS and other branches of the executive branch still doesn't have the policing authority over the elections unless there are claims of civil right violations that violate federal anti-discrimination laws. Then the federal government can intervene based on the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment on behalf of those who are being denied their right to vote by the states. Another scary proposition is that Donald could impede the postal system somehow to get in the way of mail-in ballots to get in on time. So it is important to have your voter IDs ready, to pay attention to state announcements on voter ID requirements, and mail in your ballot if you have always done mail-in ballots, and I know more than one person who does, as soon as you get them if you vote by mail. Don't wait till the last moment. You can also call and email to confirm that your domicile election officials, meaning where you're registered to vote, those election officials have received your ballot. That's what I generally do. I always confirm that they have received my ballot. So, with that said, Donald Trump ends with, thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. All right, Donald, whatever. We need to, as a people, take this as a warning and as an alert, because Donald Trump is coming after our right to vote. He's trying to make it more difficult for you to get voter IDs, and he's trying to make voter IDs a requirement for elections. He's burning the candle at both ends when it comes to our voting rights. And we simply cannot allow that to happen. So stay prepared, get your voter IDs ready, make sure you know your rights, and make sure you always resort to getting the help of election officials at your local level and of local police authorities if you see any federal agents or agencies getting in the way or trying to get in the way of you voting on the basis of not having a valid voter ID, despite the fact of you following the rules and getting valid voter IDs. They may just stand way out there and try to block people from coming in, the ICE agents, and claim that those passports are fake. They can do whatever they want at this point. So be ready and don't let up. Prove to them your citizenship when you're going to vote. Don't have that chilling effect of not going through the little bit of trouble to get your voter IDs, because it will be worth it for you to vote MAGA out and see that your vote had an impact on changing the direction of the country. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon.